Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy MJ, and I am ready for another episode of Before the Pour 20 Questions with MJ. My guest today is co founder of Luz Selections, Kerin Auth Bembry. She started in 2017. Her own company, La Luz, is an exclusive wine brokerage and import company representing prominent brands alongside small growers from Spain and Portugal. She is considered a veteran and an expert in the Spanish wine industry. Kerin has conducted several classes regularly around New York, such as Murray's Cheese, the Astor Center, and the American Sommelier Association. She has participated many times on the New York Times tasting panel and has been quoted in numerous magazines such as Wine and Spirits, Fine Cooking, and Culture. She is a mentor to many. That's how we got her here. She is an enthusiastic and driven wine professional and dedicated Epicurean. That's the first time that word showed up on the podcast. Whose long term commitment, mission, and focus is to further share her passion for Spain's gastronomic bounty. Welcome, Kerin. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that kind of sums it up for now. We'll get into the
Look at
rest
you
of it.
blushing. Like you're like, I did all that? Yes,
No.
you did all that.
No, I'm laughing at some of my wording. That's all.
That's
I'm funny.
You are funny. We're going to find out how funny. Okay. So to warm up a bit, I'm going to start by asking you some personal questions. They're not really personal, but questions about you so we get to know you better. And then I'm going to ask you by the Proust questionnaire, which was made famous by James Lipton on Inside the Actor's Studio. So the trick is just don't overthink it. Just we're drinking wine. We're asking questions. Just answer. The first thing comes top of your head. All right?
Let's do it.
All right. What is your favorite book?
The one that I think affected me the most and made the most impact in my life at the right time. Maybe The Power of Now.
Okay.
Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Tool or Tolle, but yes.
Tolle.
I think it's actually Tolle, I know. All right. I like that.
Tolle.
That's a good one.
I mean, I could say a couple different ones, like The Alchemist. I always loved, and
Yeah,
I've read that in 2 languages.
I read that in one sitting. That is.
It's a breeze by.
Yeah.
So that's what I like to do with a book like that, though. I have El Alchemista, which I read in Spanish too. It kind of challenges me.
Show off. Okay.
Bueno.
What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, Silence of the Lambs, maybe. It's twisted, but I think maybe that or Dirty Dancing, just
Wow.
totally different.
Yeah,
Totally different, but
Yeah, I got it. I can see how.
a little murder and romance.
Murder and a little nobody puts baby
Patrick
in the corner.
Swayze.
All right. Who is your favorite musical artist?
So many. Obviously, everybody probably always says that, but I'd probably say overall, Stevie Wonder.
Okay. Why'd you?
Stevie Wonder,
You
Prince.
can't go wrong with Stevie Wonder.
I'm obsessed with songs in the key of life right now. I've listened to it nonstop from beginning to end, pretty much every day this week. So, right now, that's probably my favorite.
Are you on? Is it digital or are you vinyl or are you?
We have both.
Okay.
So it's that album is actually right on the forefront of our record collection. So it's always on my brain. I love the album, and the colors of the album match a painting in my living room. Looks really nice. I'll show it to you one time.
Very cool. And we'll get into that because I think you got a new house. But we're just warming up. What is your favorite food or thing to eat?
Japanese food. Any type of like yakitori, sushi, Japanese food in general. When I travel a lot, which hasn't been in a while, when I come home, that's the first thing I want is like sushi.
Okay. Who is your favorite athlete?
Pele.
Good one. First one who gave me a footballer.
I'm a footballer.
Yeah, very nice. What was your favorite cartoon as a child?
Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo for sure. Back to the murder.
Yeah.
Is it always a mystery?
Oh, it was a mystery. That's right.
It's always a mystery. And then, there's some other reasons too that I think connect in my real world life now growing up. So.
Well, I mean, I didn't realize he was a stoner back then.
I didn't realize it back then.
Yeah, but nobody did.
The mystery machine.
I know.
Oh,
I think there was always smoke when they opened the door too. I'm about to go.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
Scooby snacks.
Scooby snacks, yes. I don't know, Scoob. Let's get some.
There he's always popping cookies with the
Yeah.
bloodshot eyes.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of symbolism in cartoons.
Yeah,
that
that's
it's for real. It happened. Go back and watch.
it's true. Um, what's your current exercise routine?
Oof, you don't know me. We've never met before, but not much right now. I would say that I'm homeschooling a lot, so I don't get time away. Mental exercise, but I would say I just downloaded the Peloton app. I don't have the bike, but I'm using the app. The workouts at home. But the floor in my new house is very fragile, so I'm a little bit concerned about the jumping.
Okay. Who's your favorite comedian?
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, we can't go wrong with Chappelle.
That's how my husband and I got together. He wooed me with meals out of Maria Sinsky's cookbook, and his house in Jersey. He brought me to Jersey from the city, and meals out of her cookbook, bottles of Raveno he was opening up all the time for me, and
he wasn't playing.
And Dave Chappelle at night.
You're watching
the
Chappelle show? Oh my God.
Yeah, that was our courtship. Here I am.
All right. Who would you most like to have a bottle of wine with?
Probably my grandmother, who passed well before I was able to really get to know her, but I feel like we connect in a lot of ways. I don't even know if she drank wine, to be honest with you. I don't think she was a drinker because my grandfather was a very big drinker. But I would say my grandmother. I think she'd be really interested to see where my life has gone at this point. She was an old lady with a lot of old ways of thinking, so it would be interesting.
Very nice. That's beautiful. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the 10 most famous questions in the world.
I'm gonna need some wine.
Yeah, have at it. What is your favorite word?
Sibarita.
Sibarita, and what does that translate to?
It's like I have a lot of favorite words. One of them, Sibarita. I'll go with that one. It's Sibarite. It's a word in Spanish that means luxuriant or somebody who loves luscious, like succulents.
Got it. I love it.
A voluptuary is really what it means.
Oh wow. I'm in over my head. Every time I'm in over my head, I don't get these people. They're really smart. I just went to public school and I barely got out.
Stop. I looked it up. There's a sherry called Sibarita, actually.
Okay.
And I learned it because at one time somebody said, "Que Sibarita eres?" to me. What a Sibarite you are. And I was like, what does that mean? So I looked it up. And then there's an Oloroso sherry called that as well. So it makes sense that it would be a sherry.
It does make sense. Okay. What is your least favorite word?
I'm going to say bitch.
Okay.
But only in certain contexts.
Right.
I don't know. I love, don't be such a bitch. Like I kind of like it when it's not used in the way that.
That's my niece's. She goes, don't be a whiny bitch. I mean, but the context.
It's the context.
Is decisive for you. Got it.
Because I think as a woman who has strong opinions, I think that sometimes that word is dropped a lot, whether it's about me or other women, or maybe, I just feel that it is, I think it's a word that's just mistakenly used to describe people sometimes, and I'm not a fan of that word.
That's righteous. Okay, what turns you on?
Humor.
Wonderful. What turns you off?
Narcissism, misogyny, things like that.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that. It's all good. What sound?
Back to what's your least favorite word?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Oh.
What sound or noise do you love?
I mean, I love the sound of like thunder and lightning and the ocean, anything nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then also nature. My daughter, her laughter.
Very nice.
Not all the sounds she makes but laughter. She's 7, so.
I had someone, I was like, and then the next question is, What sound or noise do you hate?
Fighting, yelling, screaming.
Got it. Yeah, they were like, I love the sound of my son's like laugh, and he was like, one. I was like, what sound or noise do you hate? Like the next one he's gonna have.
Yeah, exactly. The son's cry.
Yeah, the sound. Yeah, the sound that comes after that one. All right. What is your favorite curse word?
I think honestly the funniest and the best curse words that I know, again, are in Spanish,
That's
but they're
fine.
really intense.
But go ahead. So just
They're really-
say what it say in Spanish.
One of my favorites is "Me cago en la leche," which means I shit in your milk.
Ah, I
I
knew
mean,
leche.
"Me cago en la leche."
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a good one. Like
is
I
a-
don't like it
that-
means like fuck, but
that-
it's
yeah.
like "Me cago en la leche." Like,
That is like one of the best. That might be the best curse word.
right?
we've
It's
got.
so inventive. I mean,
took
where do you go
16
from
episodes.
there?
And you're like, I shit in your milk.
I shit in your
it
milk.
does- like, and you can't. Like, I'm gonna use that in English. This is gonna fuck somebody. They're like, huh? That ain't chocolate milk. I shit in it, motherfucker. All right.
Oh, don't be shitting in my milk, yo.
Oh my goodness. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I always really wanted to be a chef, but I wouldn't want that profession because I feel like it's way demanding and would take away time from my family. But I don't know. I always wanted to be a fisherman too, so I don't know if I'd like that lifestyle, but if I could just sit on a boat and fish all day and get paid for it, would be awesome.
Okay. What profession would you not like to do?
Well, the one that I've done for the past year, which is be an elementary school teacher.
Ooh, yeah.
And, I come from teachers. My mom was a teacher. My father was a teacher. My stepfather teacher. My stepmother teacher, all teachers. And I respect so much what they do. And I am the first to admit that I could never do it. It is incredibly intense being responsible for every 8 hours a day for your own child, let alone someone else's, and they deserve medals and vaccines and pay raises and every single possible thing that they could get because it's really hard. It's really hard being, educating a child, especially in this day and age right now. But
Very cool.
yeah, so teacher.
And lastly, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I told you there'd be sherry.
Oh, good answer. That was a lot of fun. And if you want more from Kerin, and I know you do, tune in to our episode of the Black Wine Guy Experience. Till the next time, cheers, y'all. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy MJ, and welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. My guest today is co-founder of Luz Selections, Kerin Auth Bembry. Luz Selections is an exclusive wine brokerage and import company representing prominent brands alongside emerging small growers from Spain and Portugal. She is considered a veteran and expert in the Spanish wine industry. She has conducted several classes regularly around New York City, such as Murray's Cheese, the Astor Center, and the American Sommelier Association, which I say wrong all the time. Kerin has participated many times on the New York Times wine tasting panel and has been quoted in numerous magazines such as Wine and Spirits, Fine Cooking and Culture, to name a few. A mentor to many, she is an enthusiastic and driven wine professional and a dedicated Epicurean whose long-term commitment, mission, and focus is to further share her passion for Spain's gastronomic bounty. Welcome to the show, Kerin. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, we're good. That's great. Thank you.
So Kerin and I connected through our season finale guest, Madeline Maldonado, who was the Esquire magazine beverage director of the year, and you came up in the conversation, and she said, this is my mentor, and then afterwards, she's like, you got to get her on here. So we connected through Madeline, and really excited that we're able to have you here today. And tell everybody about the wines you brought today. What we drinking on?
Well, first, I just want to shout out to Madeline, because she really is the best. She's been such she was just such a strong foundation for me in my business for a long time, and I just love her to pieces. And so it's truly, when I was listening to the podcast and I heard that, like, my heart just exploded. I really wasn't expecting it, and it's like we've connected a lot because of it. So I appreciate we've reconnected. So I appreciate that, honestly.
Awesome.
MJ. Anyway,
No, that's great. I love it. We're doing something right here.
yeah. Okay, so I brought 2 wines today. The first one is called Blanc d'Orto, which is from the region of Montsant in the Catalan area of Spain, about 45 minutes outside of Barcelona. And this one is mostly, it's 100% Garnacha Blanca.
Okay.
And it's a cool wine. It's called Brisat. And so what Brisat means in Catalan is basically skin contact.
Okay.
And so this wine is So with this producer, he's all biodynamic. He's a really kind of considered the maestro of biodynamics in the region. He's a professor of biodynamics. They have their own, shit farm. He has like a manure farm off the vineyards that he cultivates all the manure to bury the horns. He does all of the treatments. And this Brisat, how he makes it is he picks all the Grenache, he puts it in a tank, and then after one day, he takes out 70% of the wine and makes like a free-run must called just Orto Blanc, and then he leaves about 30% of the juice on 100% of the skins for another 4 days. And that it becomes the Brisat. So if you notice, it's a very sunny wine. It's very golden. It's not. There's no oak on this wine, but it has a lot of texture and color.
Yep.
And that comes from the skin contact. I wouldn't quite call it an orange wine, but it definitely has some textural component, but still remaining really bright and sunny. That's what I love these wines. I love sunny white wines. And the second one I brought is a sherry. I mean, I really don't go anywhere without a bottle of sherry. It's the gift that keeps giving, I think.
I love it.
We'll sip a little bit of this bottle, and then I'll leave it with you, and you'll probably sip it, out of it maybe 10 more nights and have.
Or I might just take it to the head on the New Jersey Transit home. But
21% alcohol. You gotta be careful.
No, I won't be doing that. Psych.
That's why I'm not sipping it yet.
Yeah. No. That's very cool. Well, this is. I was just on the wine. I have had a Mondstadt Red before, and so this is. I love it. I never had a Blanco from that region, and it's got like beautiful color, and it almost has like smoky. There's smoky. It almost has like an aged white Burgundy look to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it has like that crystalline texture that I sometimes love. It almost feels like when you eat cheese and it has that lactic quality, but it also has like crunchy. Mm-hmm. It's almost like you would. I forget the name of it, and I taught it Murray's cheese. I'm so disappointed in myself right now. But when you have those kind of in like aged cow's milk, and you eat like an old aged Gouda, and in some of the parts you have little crystalline textures. I get that on this wine.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to sip on this. Actually, we're banging through this pretty quick.
Sorry, that's me.
That's
thirsty.
okay. That's okay. That's how this is the black wine guy experience.
When I get nervous, I tend to sip heavier.
That's okay. It's all good. All right. So, before we dive into the world of wine with you, our research assistant found out that you went to Queens College.
Yeah.
And you have a BA in Spanish and business and liberal arts. Wait.
It was called Bella was the name of the program.
Okay.
It was a business and liberal arts program. So that is all one thing.
Got it.
It was a Spanish major with a business and liberal arts concentration.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's the woman who developed it like the year before I went, and we were kind of part of this big starting out launch of this program, and it was actually incredible. The education I got at Queens College was fantastic. Everybody that went there, I had gone to Towson State. I was saying earlier, I'd gone to Towson State for a couple of years in Baltimore, and it was like a huge party, which was awesome. But I left, and I came back to Queens College, and everybody that was, it's one of the most diverse universities, I think, in the country. more languages spoken at Queens College University, I think, than and maybe
I'm
like
sure.
NYU.
I think Rutgers is actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Because Barack was there. I think Rutgers, that whole quarter of New Jersey is crazy. That Middlesex County.
yeah
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty. It might be
up there.
I think I heard that. Yeah. And so I'm sure Queens is like
And
that.
also,
But
this
Queens
is
is like
also
that too.
a really long time ago. So it could be now,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
back in the day. So maybe that was just when I was there. But it was, everybody went to learn. There was no
Yes.
like on campus. Everybody like fought
Right.
their way to get there.
Right.
Everybody was a lot of first generation people that were so honored to be going to school. It was a totally different vibe, and it was about going to school to learn.
Yeah.
And so it was tremendous.
Now, are you originally from New York City?
I'm not from New York City. I'm going to be very careful how I say this. I'm originally from Long Island.
Oh, you're so funny. When you said I'm not from New York City, I was like, okay.
I did live in the East Village
Okay.
for 20 years.
Okay, but so you're from Long Island.
See, I knew he was. Didn't I tell you he was going to do that? I
Oh
said
shit, I'm
he's
from
gonna
Jersey.
do that.
Everybody goes Jersey.
It's the same thing, really. It's just Jersey by the other side of this New York City. Similar.
Similar.
There's also wonderful beaches, but I came from really far out. I didn't come from
What, the East
Nassau.
End?
Yep.
Where'd you come from?
So I was born in East Mauritius.
Okay.
Or like Riverhead,
Yep.
and then we lived in East Mauritius, Riverhead Hospital, and then I moved to the North Shore, Sounds Beach.
Okay.
So about an hour, 20 minutes outside of the city.
Yeah.
My father was a fisherman and a bar owner, and we grew up like playing the bowling game at the bar while my dad was drinking.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're part of this. Sounds like a really killer program. I love programs like that where
Yep.
you're like, you mix some liberal arts with some business stuff. And Spanish, is that like your native tongue or?
It's not my native tongue.
Okay.
No, my mom, actually, I think probably the first, I would be lying if I didn't give her some of the inspirational credit.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was a Spanish teacher.
Okay.
So even early on when I was growing up, she had like Spanish plates on the wall, My mom went to Spain once as a teacher before I started going off into Spain. And then we've been a lot together, but she's, she was a high school Spanish teacher. So I think that's probably the first inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took it in high school, went to Spain on like the school trip.
Yeah.
And they were really worried about me because they thought I was going to misbehave because I was kind of a rebel in high school.
I don't get that vibe. I kid. Bullshit.
But it was funny, but I was already doing that shit. I didn't need to go to Spain and do it. It was
Right.
all the good kids that were
Right.
never allowed out of their house that
Yeah.
went ballistic.
Well,
and it was great.
It sounds like Long Island.
Yeah.
you
My
know?
teachers had to basically put me in charge one day because I was the one who spoke the best Spanish to bring a bunch of kids home because they had to stay and take care of a situation.
Yeah.
And that was like the beginning. I was like, wait, I just got us home.
Yeah.
I just got us home in Spanish, back to the hotel. A bunch of we were 15, They probably shouldn't have done that, but that was the first love came.
All right. So his mom was a Spanish teacher. Your accent, I don't speak Spanish, but I know people who do, and it's impeccable. So how did you first get in? I know we said you're an Epicurean. How did you get into the food and wine scene? What was like your first gig in the business?
My very first gig, I never babysat. Nobody ever let me babysit their children. My first job was like a hostess and bus girl at the Village Way restaurant on Main Street in Port Jefferson. So I probably had just turned 16. They let me trail, and like free work basically until I was 16. And then they put me on the books and I did every job there. I still have like back issues I worked there for years, but when I was older, I'd come back from college and work there on my breaks. And I was, doing the bar and I would lift my arms up with huge racks of glasses. And I still have I don't know why my left arm is so strong, but my left arm is from all the, and then I worked, at like 10 or so restaurants in New York before I landed at Be Our Guest. That was my last restaurant job in New York City.
All right, so you're bouncing around the city, doing a thing. And did you work while you were in school also?
I worked I worked every year throughout school. I worked at a 24-hour diner, the overnight shift at Towson State. incredible job serving all the drunk people who come in after the bars and eat burgers. So it's from 11 to 7. Great shift. I made tons of money, so that really helped. And then when I came back from Towson State and went to Queens College, I worked at Giardino's, Italian restaurant in Douglaston. No, was it Douglaston? Bayside? Douglaston. Bayside. Bayside?
Bayside?
I forget. There was 3 locations. I forget where that one it was. Bayside.
Okay.
Yeah. So so that's where I worked. And I still have great friends that I met there from 20 years ago. Yeah. Italian, penne alla vodka, quattro stagioni pizza, just like straight up, baby showers and engagement parties, They were kind of mafia. We won't talk about that, but
Yeah. You think those guys were kind of mafia?
the Russo family from Staten Island.
Yeah. No, I mean, actually, I grew up in
Maybe cut that out.
No, I grew up in Jersey and down the shore, and there still is a racetrack, but it was really big back then, Monmouth Park. And I remember 1985, feds came in, racketeer, and arrested like 50 people, like kids I went to high school, their dad. And you always wonder, what does your dad do? Whatever. Driving around in Cadillacs,
He just makes money. We
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, we don't know. So listen, listen, Sopranos. I mean, this is the part of the country we live in. So there's gonna be a little bit of that around. So you mentioned so Be Our Guest. That was your last real restaurant gig, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, I'm not familiar with that restaurant. I'm sure people around the world are. So tell us a little bit about
Wow. So Be Our Guest was a crazy restaurant group back in the this is early 2000s now we're talking about. 99 I started working for them. 98 I started working for them. They used to own restaurants all over New York.
Okay.
Ruby Foo's, the Blue Water Grill down in Union Square. I'm sure you've been there. Atlantic Grill, Ocean Grill. They had a whole empire. Started out as a waitress. Then one of the things that, I kind of was super proud of early on, there was such a discrepancy between the way the managers spoke to like the front of the house and the way the managers spoke to the back of the house. I just found it a lot of times really disrespectful. And so I pitched to the owner of the company, Steven Hansen. It's like not all the restaurants exist anymore. And so he sold and did a whole bunch of, spreading out his empire. But I pitched him the idea to teach a class to the management staff, a required class to the management staff, how to communicate better with the non-English speakers of the team, as opposed to being like, late, or a mappo, and it's just like, dude, that's not how you say it. It's like so rude.
Oh man.
And so it was awesome. It was really cool. And then 9/11 happened, and kind of all of the little things that we were doing were cut from the program, so to speak.
Now, what was your position there? Were you doing anything with the beverages at that point?
I wasn't doing anything at the beverages at that point. I took, the American Sommelier Association course, but that was towards the end of my stint there.
Okay.
Be Our Guest was incredible. Greg Harrington, Master Sommelier, Inez Rubistello, there was Chuck Simeone. There was a lot of people that we learned from. I mean, they had what was called Wine College. I was getting a free wine education from Be Our Guest restaurant by being able to just show up a half hour early to work and get a 30-minute master class about Chardonnay from the wine director. So that was like my first education. And then in 2001, me and a couple of my friends I all met at that Giardino's restaurant in Queens, took the American Sommelier Association wine class on the 110th floor of the World Trade Center. And we were all there September 10th, 2001 at 9 a.m. in the morning. It was every Monday, the class. So like same time, day before. So that was kind of crazy. And we lived in the East Village at the time, and I heard it happen, It was like a crazy, crazy thing. And then, my job was totally cut after that. It was just like, no, I went and volunteered for a couple of days on the boats that were docked at the harbor downtown that were housing all of the firemen and everybody cleaning up. And I worked that for a little bit, and then it was like, I went back and they were like, well, do you want to wait tables here for a while? And I was like, do you want to manage? I'm like, no, I don't want to be a manager. It's so much work and so little pay. And so I wrote a resume to go to in English and in Spanish. And I was just going to, I went to the internet cafe
Yeah, wait, I
I'm
know.
dating myself.
No, I know. That just reminds me that there's a commercial where the mother, the kids are like, the braces. You have the aligners and like high speed internet. She's like, look at you, no rubber bands and all. And like, remember, dong dong. Don't remember getting on AOL.
Oh my God. I still have an AOL email address.
Hey, that's gangster. Listen, anyone who has that, I'm like, you're an early adopter, man. My first one was Hotmail. I didn't get an email address. I had one in law school because they gave us one, but I never used email. It's like, what do I use email for? I'll just call you.
Right. That's
Lost
art these days.
Yeah. So, you're taking this course. So you had started studying wine. You were getting master classes at your job. 9/11 happens. You actually write a resume. You actually probably wrote it out first and then typed it, or word process it.
Something like
that. And then what was your intention? Where were you trying to go with that?
So thank you for asking. Cool question. So the story is super neat. So when, coincidentally enough, the two major wine directors of Windows of the World, Paulo Villela and Inez Rubistello, at the time when the towers fell, came to work at the restaurant Bluefin, which was one of the Be Our Guest restaurants, which is the restaurant I chose to go to wait tables again so I could make the money.
Yep.
And during that time, I said to Inez, Inez, I really want to go to Spain and move to Spain. Do you know a winery that so green, 23, 24 years old, just trying to figure it out. And she said, my friend who owns this Spanish wine import company, he's the one to ask. Why don't you ask him? So she kind of arranged a date, basically, and had them come to the restaurant and sit at my table.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first interaction with Jorge Ordóñez and the owner of Tempranillo was them sitting at my table in my section at Bluefin, and I waited on them in Spanish, only completely Spanish. I wasn't exactly sure what they were doing there, but by the end of the trip, they had offered me by the end of the meal, they had offered me a job, and I worked there for 9 years.
So Tempranillo. Now, who was that? Who owned Tempranillo?
Tempranillo. Everybody thinks Jorge Ordóñez owned it, but it was owned by pretty much the sweetest man I've ever encountered in the wine business. I just love him. I wish I could hug him right now. Jose Ramon Gude, who was like this merchant marine Galician man.
Now, did he live in Mamaroneck?
Yes.
I've been to his house.
I bet.
I've been to his house.
I bet you have.
Because I worked at Sparrow.
Yep.
Armando fucking hates me till this day because I left.
Emoji lip seal. That's all.
And then we'll talk afterwards. But anyway, But anyway, so I went out there with Armando and Mike Garcia.
I know them both.
I know you do.
I know them both very
well, as soon as it was Spanish wine, I was like, I knew it wasn't Jorge's house I went to. I remember we went to Mamaroneck. And
Larchmont.
Yeah, Larchmont. Yep.
The office was in Larchmont.
Yeah.
He might have lived in Mamaroneck.
Yeah, we went to his house. We went to his house and
cooked a big meal for you.
Well, he had all this illegal cheese and ham. He would just drop it in the pallet. It just
Yep. He would smuggle jamons.
Yeah. And he had the whole setup in his house. So I was yes, I've been to his house.
Nicest man.
Yeah, he
on
was.
the planet.
Just generous guy. So, damn. So here goes. You're like, okay. What a hookup. You sit down, you're waiting table in Spanish. The next thing you know, bow. And that's when they were just coming on, right?
Right. So they had just really blown up. So it was 2001. So by May of 2002 was my first trip with Jorge Ordóñez to Spain. And so that was when I officially started. So I kind of worked out a little bit. I had already planned a trip, and he was like, cancel that trip and I'll send you with the team, so to speak. I forgot your question.
I forgot my question. Just tell the story. You know what's going on in my mind? I swear, I was just thinking about driving out there, and then I just remember the Abadía Retuerta wines back then.
That's my jam.
That's what was in my mind was Abadía Retuerta.
The 2001 Abadía Retuerta Selección Especial is one of the most delicious wines. I still, to this day, it leaves I can taste it right now. It was candied cherries, potpourri, or eucalyptus. So good. Those wines are so good.
Yeah. So you had a trip. You're going to Spain, and then Jorge's like, pump the brakes. You're gonna, coming with me. And tell me about that trip.
I mean, well, first of all, wasn't that trip that. So Jorge is. Wow, it's a complicated relationship now. Obviously, I've moved on, and
Yep.
he taught me so much. And
Yep.
he's an incredibly generous person. He's a very unique personality, and he is he's a character. He, travels with his own truffles. So, he goes around on the bus with a humidor full of truffles, and everywhere we go, he'll just slice them and like nonstop. One day in Zamora, he flew in. You've heard of like Joselito. It's one of the most famous jamon ibéricos, right?
Yep.
He flew in Joselito himself, who was exceptionally hungover and like sweating, and he cut, a $10,000 10-year-old pata negra jamon ibérico that he had in his cellar. And we cut into it and ate the whole thing, the whole thing, a group of 25 people, a whole leg. We just sat there and kept doing it until we were done. And then he would shave truffles on them. If anybody taught me how to be a sibarita, it's
Yeah,
Jorge.
I was going to say, okay, so fucking living in the lap of luxury
I was
here.
so fat. I would go twice a year on these trips, and it would take me a full 6 months to recover, and then I would go on another one. I was just like salt swollen all the time. And his motto was like, "Don't stop until you drop." He was not a man of restraint on any level.
Yeah. Well,
It was my first real dive into it all, and I mean that showed in his wines too. He was kind of the front runner of Robert Parker in the day, and I was selling wines that had 100 points, easily.
Yeah. I mean, all those wines were big.
200% new French oak.
200.
100% French oak for 12 months,
Yeah.
and then out.
Right.
In 100% new French oak for another 12 months. So, like, legitimately 200% new French
Oh
oak.
my God, that is crazy.
They're monsters.
Yeah, monstrous wines. Well, you were going to tell me you started to say something. So what was like a member like? So it wasn't that trip. You said wasn't that trip. What's the memorable?
Well, I met my
trip?
husband on a Jorge Ordóñez trip.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was looking at a picture the other day of a table that I took. He doesn't like that I'm going to say this, but actually his name's Joe. And there was another guy on that trip named Joe who I actually kissed on that trip. Not my husband, but my husband was married at the time. He had a ring on. I didn't look. I'm respectful like that. I'm a lady. So I didn't even pay attention. And then years later, we connected. So I met him in 2005, and we went on our first date in 2011 to a Jane's Addiction concert.
Ben Costillan. That is, wow.
So that's probably the most memorable experience I've had on a Jorge Ordóñez trip, even though it wasn't at the time very memorable. But I didn't know it was going to affect my my life moving forward. But again, I think certain wineries, I mean, Remy Uri was probably the winery that blew me away the most on those visits back in the day. To visit like that estate winery in the middle of the mountains was just impresionante. It was just really incredible. It took my breath away, and I realized I'm here right now on my job. Like, this is going to be what I do. And once I had that feeling, I never could go back. That was it for me. It was what I was going to do.
Did you? How'd your mom? Was she tripping when you came back with those pictures, like from your like wine job in Spain?
She loves it. She's awesome. I definitely, exceeded her. She was a single mom. She had 2 kids early on. She never got to travel and do those things. So I think in a way, she just lives vicariously through me. And now I've been to Spain with her several times, probably 5 or 6 times. And I went to Spain with her with my daughter, which that was probably one of the most amazing experiences ever, is walking down the street of San Sebastian with my mom and my kid. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was sweet.
So like what? So you started. You were just were you just a salesman when you started for them?
So for Tempranillo, I was a salesperson the whole time.
Okay.
8 years I worked for him.
Okay.
And it was awesome. It was during the heydays of, I would say it was awesome. I didn't realize what I was being a part of. I didn't know at the time because I was so green when I got into it. It was the first company I ever worked for.
Mm-hmm.
Jorge was like, you don't show a wine 2 days in a row. You open the wine 5 minutes before your appointment and you show it to them, because he wanted all the oomph and oak and everything to be right up front. It wasn't until years later that I was like just tasting with other people where they're like, no, man, you could keep the bottles open for a day. It'll be good tomorrow. I didn't realize that, because Jorge was like, no. And so I learned a lot from him about how to entertain, how to take care of people, how to go to a restaurant and make everybody walk out and just feel awesome and, never skimp. He was really, he was good for that. Again, I forgot what
You're fine. You're doing fine. Listen, we don't, I don't usually.
Try not to go off topic.
We go off topic here. Don't just go. I got you. I will bring us back. You just tell a story. You're here. We're here to hear your story.
You got me sweating over here.
I know you're like, come on now.
These plastic pants in a second.
So
wearing a wetsuit.
So like, and what was your beat? What was your territory?
All of New York. So that's what you asked me.
Yeah.
Now I got it. It was all of New York. I was the only person at the time. So you had mentioned a guy. You mentioned Sparrow.
Yep.
I bet you knew a guy named Luis Moya.
Yeah.
Okay, so he worked for Tempranillo at the time. So he left.
Okay.
And I worked for him for a little bit.
Yep.
He was like showing around. He's Cubano.
Right.
He's like, I swam over here in a refrigerator. That guy could do anything, and everybody loved him. He's super charismatic. He's still in the business. I love that guy, but he left. And I basically got his whole territory. So I worked with everybody.
Yep.
And then from there, I got to a point where I was starting to get, it was too much. I mean, I was making a lot of money. I was drinking a lot. I was out every single night, as a salesperson. If you're not having that last drink with the wine director at the end of the night, then you're not getting that sale.
Yep.
And so I really lived that. And I was single, and it was just like I was out all night long. I would send orders in at 4:30 in the morning, and then I'd sleep until 11 and get up and do it every day again. It was really unhealthy. But when I left, I took people to take my job. So I brought in a bunch of people to start taking over my territory over the course of the last few years. And then they all became super, super awesome wine people that they were all restaurant people that I brought to the dark side, who are now running companies. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, so we have to get some more guest suggestions from when we're all done.
Yeah.
So you were there, and then you said, so what happened after you left?
So I left Tempranillo actually to open a restaurant.
Okay.
And it didn't work out because the economy crashed at the end of 2008. So basically the paycheck wasn't getting me out of bed anymore. I didn't want to see my clients. I didn't want to drink anymore. I didn't want to eat anymore. I needed a break. I needed to enjoy the economic slowdown. Everybody was freaking out. Euro money was the big boom of 04, 05 was over, and it was like, oh shit. So I was like, I'm going to open up a restaurant with my buddy Dave, who I love, who still one day we're going to do it. A Spanish place. We had the spot, which was the old Le Gamin Cafe on 5th Street between Avenue A and B.
Okay.
Loved that space. It's now 2OMI. We were there. We had the whole plan. We had an investor. And then, boom, the market crashed, and that didn't work out. So I took all my hard-earned money, and I partnered into Tinto Fino, which was a wine store in the East Village, all Spanish wine. The owner was the owner of Tiapol on 10th Avenue, one of the first kind of cool tapas restaurants for the new generation. And so I slowed down by walking from 8th and C to 1st and 5th. For about 5 years, I had that store. Beautiful store. That's where Madeline worked. That's how I got to know Maddie.
Okay. And tell me about that experience. So you now you were salesman. So you've gone over to the other side. Now you're buying wines from other reps.
I miss those days. Everybody loves to buy wine. It's fun.
It is.
It's fun buying wine. You're like, I'll take 10 cases. It's like, oh, it feels so good to support your friends and to be able to
and spend someone else's money. Well, it's your money in that case.
It was my money, which I didn't do very well. We closed in 2011. No, it was a lot of reasons why. It was a labor of love. That store never had a chance, really. But
why is that? Was it ahead of its time?
It was a little ahead of its time. It was next to a porn shop.
Oh, okay.
Which was awesome. We did some pairings.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But we, it was a non-through street, so we no through traffic. There was a housing development in front. There was a precinct around the corner. Just a weird spot. Nobody, there were people that would walk by the store and be like, "How long have you been here?" And I'm like, 5 years.
Oh, that's the worst.
They're like, "Really? I live the next block, but I never walked down this side of the street." Because it was also, they kept me in business, so I'm so grateful for them and bless their hearts. But it was also where all of the Sri Lankan blinking light restaurants were, where they're like, come, and they try to pull you in. And so if you live there, you're walking on the other side of the
Right,
street.
right, right,
You're not going
right.
to go there. People waiting outside, flowing out the door. Like, you don't want to be bothered with that.
Were those like BYOBs? That's why
They were
have-
BYOB,
okay,
and
gotcha.
when I first took over the store, they didn't have an under 15 section, you know. And I was like, well, these should be in the center of the store, right next to the register. So these people that are coming in from the
Grab
just
a
grab and go
bottle. Yep.
under 15, make the highest margins off of those wines in particular. Make sure they're delicious and over deliver, but make sure that the margins are big, and those are going to be the ones that keep you going, keep the lights on, literally, for a couple more years.
Now, speaking of under 15, I want to say Protocolo was Tempranillo wine.
Yes.
So I've talked about this wine a few times, and I'm pretty sure
Protocolo.
it was like we were selling it for either $2.99 or $3.99 at Sparrow, like in 1999.
Yeah.
Tell people about how's that wine so fucking good. It's like and someone went and bought it. I think it's like $6.99 or $7.99.
Probably.
And he was like, dude, he was more excited about that than some. He's like, it was delicious. So like,
How?
How?
So those wines. Here I am owning my own Spanish company. I'm talking
know,
about wines that
I
I
know.
sold in 1999
Well,
for Hortigones. You're welcome, Jorge. But
Exactly.
Protocolo is the Marcos Erguren, the Erguren brothers, who make some of those 100-point wines that I sold.
Okay.
So they made San Vicente. They make all the Sierra Cantabria wines from
Yep.
Rioja.
Okay, I know this. Yep.
They make El Puntido. They made Numancia and
Oh, wow.
Termancia.
Okay.
So, when you have incredible winemakers who go to the region of La Mancha and buy the cheapest juice around
Right.
and, are able to make great wine at a low cost. And so, it's just like the cost of grape where they're making the wines is really, really low. And so they're just able to do great things with it. Great winemakers making inexpensive wine.
Yeah, no, I just thank you for we I can't have a podcast without mentioning Acre Merrill, so
Do it.
I didn't know the story behind it. It makes sense now. Now I know all the wines they make because I was like, how the fuck is this so good?
I love those guys too. I've cried. I've had them in my home, and I've shed tears with those guys. When they sold the project of Termancia and Numancia, and they didn't want to do it. They were really down. Like it was like their baby. And when they sold it, when he told me, I just, they're really humble, beautiful people.
Now remind me, are those wines from the Toro region?
Those wines, the Numancia
Yeah,
and Termancia
yeah.
from the Toro region.
Okay, well-
Those are the ones that got 100 points a couple years in a row.
Yeah.
Along with the Clio and El Nido. Remember those?
Oh yeah, I got 2 bottles of Clio on my side. I love Clio.
Oof.
I don't know that El Nido's worth more than Clio. I mean
Clio was always my favorite.
yeah, Clio
Always.
it's
Less
just,
cab, more
yeah,
Monastrell.
man, just ugh.
Yeah, the Clio always had, the El Nido was more cab. It had that
Yeah.
The Clio was more
Yeah.
juicy
Yep,
and lush
yep,
and
yep.
really floral.
What's that
great.
word? The
Sibarita?
Sibarita. Yeah, more Sibarita. It's that word. Okay, so, somehow it probably has everything to do with you being between a Sri Lankan restaurant and a porn store. But so you're moving on. The doors close, unfortunately, and then what happens next?
So, what happened next is, let's say that I had a detour for a couple years and worked for a different company that didn't work out very well for anybody.
I've had a few of those.
Yeah. Can't talk about it
Yeah, that's
legally,
fine.
so we'll move on. That's
Yeah,
why it's not in my bio. I don't
it's
like
okay.
to. All press
listen.
is press, right? Is good press, so I prefer to keep it
No, listen. I don't.
quiet.
I don't. I'm not trying to jam people up on this show. Just
No,
having
that's cool. I'm
conversations.
also trying to be. I'm
Yeah.
also, doing this on purpose.
I know.
Trying to escape the line,
listen,
but
listen.
also
we
drop
had
some
we
deets.
had Andre Mack on, and like how those very rich people from France said, he had to change the name of his wine, So small world. So it's a small world,
Right, right.
It's a small world.
So what?
So you got a little detour,
Got a detour,
and
but I met my business partner. That's
okay.
the most important part
okay,
about it.
okay.
So during the detour, I got pregnant, didn't know it. First started the job on July 1st. On July 4th, I was like, oh, shit. That's not going to work for the company. I don't think they thought they bought a jalopy, basically. It was like, that wasn't what we expected. So that didn't, lasted a couple years. I had a kid, left that company kind of abruptly, but what it did is allowed me a year of kind of reflection, and I was unable to get another job by contract and whatnot, and so I kind of just had to take a couple steps back. And in that time, I connected with my business partner of my company now, who was also an employee of that same company. So we both left and started our own company.
Okay. And just for, since we're like an hour in, what's the name of your company?
Starting here. So in 2017, I started La Luz Selections, which is the light. And La Luz is, we named it that because we really wanted to see the light, to operate a different business and be a kind of a radiating positive force in the business rather than, just kind of the run-of-the-mill type of situation. So my business partner is a kind of a well-known winemaker from Oregon named John House. He'd be also great for this. He is the winemaker and owner of Ovum Wines, Natty Rieslings from Oregon.
Okay.
And, we make a pretty good duo.
Okay, so let's, I want to take a deep dive into the light selections. We need to take a quick break.
Okay.
So we're going to do that. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about La Luz. Okay, we're back. So La Luz Selections. See, I thought when you said it's the light, I was like, oh, she liked that Common song with
Oh, I do love that song, though.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Because we've had so many guests who are big '90s hip hop heads.
Yep.
So.
I could have gone that direction too. Tribe Called Quest. I was saying that in DC, I saw the Far Side. It was one of my clubs at the 930 Club. I was into that.
So your partner, you're saying he's a winemaker out of Oregon, and you guys are a dynamic duo, and so you formed your company, and then what was? So you said he was winemaking in Oregon. So was that your focus originally, or what? How?
Never. So we started the company. He left. We worked with a couple of really great producers in the portfolio that I represented. And when I left, because I was a partner in the company, the portfolio basically dissolved. Raul Perez was one of the guys in the portfolio, and he also decided to move on. And so when he left the portfolio, there wasn't really much left for them to really keep going. So they tried to absorb some of the stuff, but we brought some of the people with us. They called us, and we kind of created the portfolio out of a couple of, friendly wineries. And basically, we had worked with Portuguese wines too. I've started working a lot with Portugal, which are some of the greatest values right now, especially considering that they're not tariffed. It's a big point. Spain is heavily tariffed, and Portugal is not.
Why is that?
They're not involved in the whole EU
they're not
Airbus situation. They are in the EU, but they weren't guilty as charged, just like Italy kind of escaped.
Okay.
At first, right? Then they got added to it, I think. But Portugal was never involved in the whole scandal. They're not involved at all. So the wines are just not tariffed, none of them. And Spain, it's over 14.1%. Sorry, under 14.1%. So anything over 14.1 is allowed.
Well, so your meal is fine. There's so many Toro's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you guys started. You brought some people because you had existing relationships. They came over.
Right. My business partner sent me a bottle of. It's basically the Protocolo of Portugal.
Okay.
Legit Protocolo of Portugal. He said, "Listen. Taste this bottle with your husband, who's also in the wine business. He owns a shop in Jersey. And he said, put it in the fridge for 5 minutes and taste it with Joe and see what you think." So we just started the company. We already knew that we were going to be bringing in a Ribera del Duero that I work with, that were friends of mine. We knew that I was going to be bringing my friend La Osa from Leon. We needed some palate movers, something like sure things. So he sent me this bottle. He's like, tell me what you think. We put it in the fridge, and my husband and I drank it truly in 15 minutes. It was just incredible. 12% alcohol. It was from the Castelao grape. They did some cement. They blended everything. It was product of Portugal. It didn't even have a D. And
old school, what was it? Pathmark. Remember?
Truly,
no frills.
It doesn't have
Portuguese
a vintage.
wine.
It doesn't even have a vintage.
Wow.
It doesn't. It's non-vintage.
Multi-vintage.
Right? Well, it is one vintage, but they don't put a vintage on the label because if they do put a vintage on it, they have to pay more money. If they put a region on it, then they have to pay more money. And in order to keep the price to be like what you go to Portugal and you're like, I drank this great wine and it was €1. Why can't I find it here? And it's like, because there's just passes through so many boxes it has to click that add money. And so we were like, could this work? Are the people ready for a non-vintage like Vino de Portugal, Vinho? And it turns out they were. So it was, and then he told me how much it was. And I said, you're kidding me. You're joking. And so we basically built the company off of like a, kind of inexpensive, chuggable, light-bodied Portuguese table wine.
Wow. Wow. That's the first time I heard that story.
Yeah. It didn't end up being the wine that we thought it was going to be in the portfolio. Other wines, actually from Portugal, ended up leading the pack, but it ended up opening the doors and getting things started. So we're very grateful for that.
So clearly you have this love for the Iberian Peninsula, and you said this a few moments ago. Maybe you can shed some light. Why are wines from that region still undervalued? Like, even I was telling someone, even like if you look at like, and with the exception of Vega Sicilia, like I mean, there's so many age-worthy wines like from Spain and particularly Spain. I need to know more about Portugal. We know most Americans, we don't know shit about Portugal except port, and stuff like
Vino
that.
Verde, sparkling
Vino Verde,
Gazella.
But like, how is it that like I mean, they've been making wine forever. I mean, it's just...
I already kind of talked about it, which is unfortunate, but they took a couple of wrong turns. And basically it was, I feel, it's like when someone gets out of jail, they just like go nuts maybe. I don't know. I've never been, but, well, except that one time.
Except that one time?
But, it's like... you go full throttle and you go full force. I think that Jorge's movement during that time kind of changed the landscape.
Okay.
And I think that they got set back after, first of all, Franco kept, things on lock, so to speak. They weren't allowed to have international or outside information, outside education. They weren't allowed to leave. They weren't allowed to have that information, and so they were very isolated. But when Franco passed, then things started to open up, and really it was like early 80s that we started to really see Spanish wine come out, like, overly, commercialized East Albarino, but we were getting it, and then the idea of the point system came out right around that time. It started to really be big as Spain was starting to find its feet. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of producers like screwed the pooch and just over oaked it, overdid it, over extracted, and really it's just now starting to see the aftershocks from that. Or I mean, we're just starting to see it rectify, with all of the
correction.
Yeah,
they call it.
Exactly.
Correcting course.
And so I was kind of part of it too. So I'm. It's hard to. It feels a little dirty, But I'm here to also correct it as well. So with the wines that we bring in now that are not that.
She said, "I sold these big 100-point fruity oak bombs, and I feel so dirty."
Did, man, but you gotta pay the bills, man.
I know. I'm saying, like, I'm not imagining. This is so funny how you described it. I think it's pretty hilarious.
I do. I feel dirty about it.
Dirty. Yeah, no, I tell people I don't mind a slutty wine. It's okay. Sometimes I just don't want to. I don't want to have to figure you out wine.
Show me your cards.
Yeah, just come on, lay it on.
Lay it on me.
Come on, baby. Hit me.
I hear you.
But
I've never been one to beat around the bush, so I definitely agree.
So and then a follow-up question. Why is Portugal still not?
That one I can't explain. They've had so many Portugal's on the cutting edge.
I know you hear all that shit like
20 years.
20 years, like it's just so funny. Like you read a Wine Spectator from 20 years ago, and it's pretty much the same fucking headlines, right? Same. Emerging in Santa Barbara, Portuguese. I mean, but anyway, I mean, like.
I actually think that now is the time. I do, and I know that that's just like okay, but I think the tariffs have really. It's like Chile.
Right.
Chile is having a total resurgence right now. We're seeing lots of wines coming from Chile because people are looking outside of the mainstream of Spain and these France where they're getting tariff just to do business. Same wines are now 25% more expensive. When you can go to Chile, which are producing, they are on the verge of also a huge, movement and resurrection from winemaking. You have a lot of innovation and cool shit going on there too. But I think this is the time for Portugal. There's a lot of natural wine coming from Portugal, like a ton. And I think that's going to help them get into the palates of the new generation.
So let's, you brought up natural wine. So let's like...
Don't ask me about it, dude.
Come on. I'm
just kidding.
I know.
Ask me.
No, I mean, like, what? So I was listening to something yesterday, and they were like, "You want natural? That's fine. If you want to put bottles of wine in your cellar, that just might explode." I mean, like, in natural wine, like, when you say it, how are you defining it?
To me, well, it's a great question. And we straddle that line in our company because my business partner is, like I said, a winemaker, and he makes wines that are considered natural, but he adds a little bit of sulfur, right? And he doesn't own his vineyards, right? A lot of these people don't. So it's what natural wine means to me, depending on who I'm talking to. I think that's really the question.
Good answer.
Because there are a lot of incredible wines that fit all of the parameters that are natural wine. This, by all parameters, is a natural wine.
Right.
Okay? It's under 70 parts per million of sulfur. There's nothing added. It's all organic, biodynamic farming. I mean, this fits the bill. But this isn't what people think about when they think about natural
that's what I'm saying.
wine.
Right. So, like, I listen, I love a biodynamic. So many people in the old world especially are biodynamic just because that's the way they do it.
They never knew anything.
What do
you mean organic? We never did anything.
Why would we use
Why would we
chemicals?
spend money on chemicals?
Right, exactly. So and a lot of them, and I try and tell people, like, a lot of wines, like, and it's just so many, but like they're not labeled because they're like, I'm not paying to have that on my label. It costs more. Like you said, you're adding to the cost when you do shit like that, right? So are we talking about what I'm hearing, and I want you, is like it's a minimalist approach to making wine,
right?
Doing as little as possible, and a lot of my winemaker friends from the West Coast, they follow the same thing. Like they're like, I make my wine in the vineyard, and they're trying not to do anything. I got one. He's like, I don't even stir the freaking leaves, man. I put it in there.
Just let it happen.
I let it happen. So that I can roll with.
I mean, if you were to ask this guy, right? I always ask him, do you want to come to Raw Wine Fest this year? You fit the bill. He's like, nah. It's part of a club. Like, I don't do things to be a part of something that's classified.
Right.
And so he doesn't subscribe to that whole, But if I asked him, like, would you ever consider making a wine with no sulfur? His answer was, yo no soy tonto. Like, I'm not stupid.
Right.
Right? So he believes in all the philosophies, but he's not going to spoil the fruit, so to speak, by not...
Right.
It's going to ship across the country. I mean, he does por lo justo, they say in Spanish. It's just the amount to keep it right.
Right.
But he believes in what the process of the farming and everything. I mean, if you follow this guy on Instagram, it's a lesson in biodynamic farming. But again, it's natural, but it doesn't per se check all the natty boxes.
Right. So that's what I would say is, like, I think, like you said, it's a club. It's a reaction, to
Jorge.
To Jorge. And I think just in the market too. I think because a lot of those wines, from a California standpoint, a lot of those wines are so expensive, right? So, you can't afford the wines. Could there be some sour grapes? Knowing human nature, there's some sour grapiness in there, right? But I love wines like this. Like, that's why I say, like, this is biodynamic. It's organic. It's minimal intervention. It's clean, right? I mean, so yeah, we had to delve into that. So, all right. So now, what are you most excited about in your book right now? So, like, I know you're saying Portugal. It's time. Like, what?
It's a hard question, like your babies, right? So I did bring this sherry, and I do think it deserves like a second. So when I say most excited, I have things that are more cutting edge, probably, like that Estranchero that I sent you. That Mencia is killer.
Yeah.
And you were also you asked me a question about the value of the Spanish wines, right? We have an Albarino from that same winemaker, Eulogio Pomares, that is single vineyard, single parcel, 3 hectares on the ocean, 50 meters above sea level. Incredible Albarino. Slovenian oak. It is, on the lees. It has texture. It's from 2018. You can find it in a store for $30-something. I mean, that same wine in France would be hundreds of dollars.
I need to get down with you. I need to get some more wines from you because, like, I mean, I had this. I had a barrel aged Albarino Lacana.
Right. Yep. I know those
White
wines.
Burgundy.
Right. And they age really
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Like,
This one is more
has
lactic.
a big ass punt. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Like, like lay this down, but it's more lactic.
Yep.
Okay.
This one is more like, I think of tortilla cheese. It's a cow's milk from that area of Spain too. It has it's like cheesy and creamy and lactic, but like a little tart, a little cheesy, a bit of marzipan. It's just an incredible wine, but super fresh. I mean, saline, mineral, all that. But an incredible wine that from anywhere else in the world that is more regarded would be triple the price.
Yeah.
You know, and if anybody who drinks Chablis or Grand Cru Burgundy wants to have an everyday style of wine, it's something like a, foudre style of Albarino. It's incredible. But I love sherry,
Okay, so like, talk sherry, girl.
It's hard to sip because like it is a bit warm in here and it's high in booze. But this is like something that...
Come on, this is the girl who was out till the break of dawn, right north at 4:30.
I should have brought some jamon to go with it. So the La Casilla here, so this is from an estate winery in the region of Sanlúcar de Barrameda. Even with Jorge Ordóñez, I worked with some of their fortified wines.
Okay.
I'm kind of obsessed with the region, the culture. I first lived in Sevilla when I lived in Spain. I've been now like 55 times or something like that to Spain. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I need to get out more.
55 times. So
I need to get out more.
This must have been a rough year for you.
It's tough. It's the longest I've ever gone. But literally, I came back from Spain February 20-something before lockdown. I just got back.
No.
And I already have booked another trip. I just don't know if we're going to get to go. But I've got the ticket. And if you put it out there, maybe it'll happen. So we'll see what happens with my daughter for September. So I love sherry, and this is the wine that is a showstopper. I mean, this is a 27-year-old aged Palomino, which is the base grape for all dry sherry from the region of Jerez and Sanlúcar. And this wine I tasted it, and I Googled it. I tasted it in Spain, in Rías Baixas, with the winemaker of Estranxero, that Mencilla that you had. We were out to dinner at a restaurant in Galicia with Luis Seabra, my friend from Portugal, famous guy, making some good wines there. And I tasted this wine. The wine director brought it over. He's like, have you had this? I competed in a sherry competition, an international Copa Jerez. I should have added that to my bio. I'm super proud of that. But I cold called the guy. I Googled the wine. I Googled it. There was a number on Contact Us on the website, and I called it. It was the guy's cell phone. He's like, ¿sí? And I was like, hola, soy Kerin. Me gusta tu Jerez. And so I was going to Sherry a couple weeks later for the Copa Jerez, for the Sherry competition. And I knocked on the guy's door, basically, and we tasted wine for about 8 hours with no food in the cellar. And we, hugged it out. And that was it. I was the first person to... Well, not the first, actually. Someone brought in a little bit before us, but these wines are groundbreaking for the region of Jerez. And they make, and I say Jerez as a region because this is from Jerez, right? Because it's a fortified style of wine. It's not a manzanilla. Only manzanilla can be labeled as Sanlúcar de Barrameda, which is an issue for me because this spends a lot of time under floor. If you ever want to have me back for a sherry talk, we can do it. But
listen,
it's a lot to say.
I'm going to keep doing this. So, yeah,
So
I'm going to be back.
Yeah, no, this is a wine that's been aged for 7 years under a layer of yeast and then 20 years aging oxidatively. And so you could keep this bottle open for as long as it takes you to drink it. Wow. Just need a little bit to wet your lips. Have you ever tasted anything so dry and salty, but also, I mean, this is just opened. I think it drinks best after it's open for 4 or 5 days. Let the alcohol kind of soften up. But... So, yeah, this is the prize of this winery.
That is a beautiful thing. Just all that, just nuttiness and honeyed and just dried fruity.
Dried fruit, orange peel. There's a flower in the south of Spain called lantana that we have it here, too. It's like a small kind of red, pink. They call it, pink lemonade. There's all different brand names of the different colors, but it's a round flower, and then within the flower it has little tiny flowers that blossom, and they smell like grapefruit zest. and it's just a very particular smell, and I get it in this wine as well, and it's native to Jerez. So,
And what would you typically pair this with?
you know, my intention was to drink this the whole time because I think that would have really opened up some
Listen,
interesting
we'll have you back in the winter, you know.
because it's one of those wines. It's a conversation piece.
Yeah.
Over the course of the time, it opens up. It starts to develop. Your palate opens up. I would serve this with anything from a pork chop to some aged cow's milk to a piece of dark chocolate. It's one of my favorite things to eat with this wine. I try not to eat too many.
I'm a dark chocolate freak, so I can do that. And you saw my pork chops on Instagram. They so like
chuletas, hombre.
Chuleta,
Esto es.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll deglaze the pan with whatever sherry I have open, any brown sherry that I have open. So I cook the pork chop, and then when I take it out, I splash of the brown sherry, let it cook down, and then drizzle that over the pork chop. It's always a hit.
Always a hit. Always a hit. So. One of your wines recently was in the New York Times, like a best value or on one of those under.
I don't think it was me.
That wasn't you. The
wrong girl, dude.
No. You're not Prunus?
I am, but I didn't. It was in the New York Times.
Yeah, I think it was one of Eric's articles. Yeah.
When?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Stop it.
No.
Did I miss it?
I think you missed it.
Prunus was in it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Stop.
I'm pretty sure.
Show me the. I want to. I'm just kidding.
I know.
I'm gonna have to check that out. That's big news, man.
I thought so, but
I mean, it should be. It's the Prunus. So I mentioned earlier that we thought Laziria, which is that little inexpensive Portuguese guy that I said was gonna change the world for us.
Right.
It ended up being Prunus. So our friend from Portugal, Luis, we had worked with him. He was one of the other people that we had worked with. We met. He's like, my wife makes wine. My business partner does a much better example of him, his accent, because it's very thick. And she makes these wines called Gota. And the Prunus red and white are our most successful wines.
what are the grapes in the white and what are the grapes in the red?
So the white is principally encruzado, which is that really stone fruit, which is what prunus means. The word prunus is stone fruit.
Okay.
So in the white, it's like apricots, peaches, and in the red, mirabelles, cherries, plums. The red is mostly Jaén, which in Portugal is Mencia. So
damn, I'm learning so much.
So you like that other Mencia? You should try that. And it's really, they're much less expensive.
No, I know.
That prunus is like $14 on the shelf.
$15 or something like
Yep.
that.
And so, the Prunus is incredible. It blends some Alfrochedo and some other grapes as well, but it's mostly Jaén. And it's from the Dow, or as they say in Portuguese, Dow, with which is kind of the highest elevation of Portugal. So it makes some of the freshest wines. Portugal's, one of those things that you asked about, like, why is it taking so long? It's, they're trying to figure out how to balance their heat. It's a very hot country, and a lot of the grape growing is on the middle of the hotlands, and so dry, arid. So they're trying to figure out how to balance that. But the Prunus is all of the Gota wines are about acid. She's looking for freshness. It's 13%, I think. So that's kind of rare, but getting to be less rare now in these days. But thanks for that notice. I'm gonna have to look that up. Thanks, Eric.
And so like. What do you have like high end in your book? I'm sure you have some bangers, right?
Well, we have our Rioja. Well, this is no schlep. This is one of the more pricey wines in my portfolio for sure. The La Casilla. These wines are, they're probably in the $60 range on the shelf for this little guy.
What's that? A 500 ml?
Yes. Yep. But again, it's like the sales pitch, sherry, the gift that keeps giving, But like this one bottle, you'll have however many experiences with it, You could break it out at a party and pour 4 glasses and then put it away. And then, one night after dinner, you have a little bit. And so it's not just one night. But we also have some high-end Rioja. I work with a really cool Rioja producer that I discovered when I had my store, Tinto Fino. There was a small company that would always come in. He's kind of a goofy guy. I love him. And he, when I started my company, I said, "Come on, Jim. You're not selling those Riojas outside of New York. Are you selling them in New York? What are you doing, buddy?" And it turned out that he was just about to leave his dissolve his company. And it was the perfect timing. So I picked up these Centenaria old school Riojas that have been around as long as like Lopez Heredia and all those producers. And they're killer. And their Grand Reservas are just groundbreaking. But they're still really value priced. So I don't have anything that's super expensive.
No, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, yo, Kerin, hook me up with a flex bottle,
I'll think of what I can flex with.
know?
I'll think of what I can flex with. I'll come up with something flexier.
Good job. Yo, see, good thing we got into this bottle. You know what? Sometimes when I first started doing the podcast, I'd have a little something before I came in, but like, yeah.
Yeah, this is one of these wines that Amontillado, it's like kind of the last stop, It's hard to, once you go brown, it's hard to go back, It's like, it
I
doesn't.
believe it's once you go black, you never go back.
My husband's really light skinned, so I like to say brown. But I'm talking about the sherry,
I mean,
MJ.
I'm
talking
brown
about
too,
the
but I'm the black wine guy. I mean, I still would be black, I'm just saying.
I said to my husband, "Would you be offended if I said you were blackish? Because he's light skinned." And he's like, "No, baby, I'm used to it. You could say whatever you want." But, the TV show,
I know.
He looks more Dominican, actually.
Yes.
And then I speak Spanish, so everyone's like,
Well, I know.
They start speaking Spanish to him, and he's like, "No, bro."
I know. People, because like I experienced that, like, white Puerto Ricans. People don't realize the Spanish influence, right? So
I have
like,
a Puerto Rican friend who has red hair and blue eyes.
right. So. And then like like I used to, like, sometimes people used to think I was like Puerto Rican, and they started speaking Spanish on the subway. I'm like, I don't know. So I get it.
Pablo.
Yeah. And then if he's with you and you're acting like your accent's perfect, and they're like, he's like, what?
It's happened when we lived in the
Jersey.
East Village. When we lived in the East Village, because the East Village, my whole neighborhood was Puerto Rican and Dominican, and they were like my people. I lived there for 20 years. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, good boss."
Yeah.
And then when I started dating him, and we'd walk down the street together, he looks like every guy in the neighborhood. And so they just assumed, and I was like, "No, man." And he's just, "Oh man."
That's so funny. So, is there a region outside of Spain and Portugal that you might want to add to your book?
It's a great question. My business partner would probably say yes. He's actually looking into some funny, interesting, funky, not funny, wines from Serbia. His wife is Serbian.
Okay.
And they make some really cool organic Rieslings and all sorts of fun, a lot of white wine there that he's been trying to muscle me into thinking to consider. I don't know. Listen, my fellas in the wine business, we drink a lot of great wine at home. I'm a specialist, and I'm happy to, if we were to bring somebody else in or another country in, it would probably be because of something in particular, a relationship that had blossomed or changed, or someone that came on board that had a connection or something specific. But I'm a firm believer in like not sticking to what but like we're Iberian Peninsula. The company is La Luz. It means it's the same in Portuguese and Spanish, and like I've dedicated my whole career to it, So I like to drink lots of wines from all over the world. We drink a lot of French wine, a lot of Nebbiolo in my house. That's not French, but we drink a lot of French wine and a lot of Nebbiolo. But
they know. I mean, nobody. I don't think anybody listens. Well, they might not know, but yeah. But they don't. They don't. I wonder if anybody's growing any Nebbiolo in France somewhere.
Well, there's a Sangiovese vine growing in my backyard, just so you know. I swear, Sangiovese.
I was like, Sangiovese.
I got it in my backyard.
You're gonna have to hook me up with some of that house wine. I'm a fan of California Sangiovese, California Barbera. I'm a fan of people experimenting. So Jersey-Ovese could be.
Jersey-Ovese. I don't know if it's going to produce fruit. We'll see this year. There was one like mangy, like shriveled up vine grape cluster when we got the house. So we'll see what happens with it. But
but you're like, this is what we do, and there is something to be said for this is what we do. This is who we are. I love that it is La Luz is the same in both languages, but that makes sense.
Listen, we could have, we thought about it, and nothing is off the table, but, like in Spanish, for example, I can communicate with everybody. I really can get to the heart of things, I think that yeah, there's just a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of wine companies doing a lot of things, and I feel really secure in what we've created. There's always the future, but I'm happy right now to just, there's so much in Spain and Portugal. And honestly, Portugal is new for me. Spain was my whole career, but Portugal is like a huge oyster right now to explore.
So tell me about what is there a region that you think is going to be huge in Portugal?
I mean, I think that the Dow has tremendous potential for like age-worthy fine wine, but I think you're going to start seeing, I'd rather say a grape.
Okay.
So the Castelao grape that I talked about before, we've seen it in a lot of different, expressions. But what I love about the most about it is we found it in this really tutti frutti, juicy, bright, really fresh style. A lot of it comes from like the Lisbon area. So if I had to say, I would say like the Lisboa area, who are just coming out of that, again, trying to balance their mother nature with wanting to produce kind of a new generation of Portuguese wines. I think a lot of people, the best wines out of Portugal right now are coming from renegade new guys that are kind of resurrecting old vineyards and doing something new. Not like the people that have been doing it forever, but there's just a lot of thirst for innovation there, which is exciting because a lot of places are still stuck in their ways.
So, I mean, I'm just thinking back over our conversation. You've had a lot of successes, and then we mentioned an NDA and XYZ and stuff like that. Was there ever a time where you were like, you know what? I think I'm gonna walk away. I think I'm done with wine.
Just then, right when that happened, I was really disheartened by the breakup, so to speak. It was, everything happens for a reason, I firmly believe that, and I guess it was just not the right fit. But it really gave me pause and made me think that maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I could switch it up. Maybe I should do travel tours to Spain. Maybe I'll, be a real estate agent. I was thinking that for a while. I love real estate. I just love houses and design and all that architecture. So I thought that would be really great. So in 2016, I almost truly tapped out.
Wow.
I almost did. I got a little bit of a severance. I took my daughter to Spain for a month for the summer because I was like, what am I going to do? Can't work. Can't work. I'm not working, so I can't have childcare for my daughter. So it's just me and her. My husband's busy working, and so we just went to Spain for a month. And I visited some people that were friends, and they kind of talked me back into it. Like, we need you. Like, if you help us, we want you to be the one. And so it was kind of those heartstrings that pulled me back in before I was really able to flip the switch. So I'm grateful for that because La Luz really has been really illuminating for my life. And I love what I do. I feel really grateful.
That's awesome. And how many states are your wines distributed in?
It's a good question. So we work in New York with a couple local distributors. We work with Bonami Wine Imports, which are good friends, my Bonamigos. Shout out to my Bonamigos. I love that company. They're about as salt of the earth as you get. Mm-hmm. Charlie Woods has been around in the business for a long time. He's a great dude. And I sell another portion of him through T. Edward Wines. Big company, also amazing people. And through T. Edward Wines and through Bonami, I've been able to expand to a few other states here on the East Coast mostly, and then a lot of states: California, Vermont, Massachusetts, Illinois, Washington, Oregon, soon to be Texas, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, soon to be Maine. Hopefully tomorrow my call works out, and Maryland, Washington.
Awesome,
yeah.
awesome. Oh my God.
MJ, thanks. So
Kerin,
fun.
Thank you so much for being here. I wanted people to know where they could find the wines, but also tell people where they can find you, how they can be a part of what you're doing, like your Instagram handles. Tell people.
Yeah. So everything's La Luz Selections. I wrote the whole website, so every word and grammar error and misinformation is all mine. And so LaLuzSelections.com is really a great resource to see what we're up to, our philosophy, the producers that we work with, all the tech sheets for every wine, every story that we have to tell. The wines are all over the country, New York, a lot of states. It would be, Yeah, actually, I should. And yeah, no, you can find them a lot of places. I was gonna shout out my husband's store, but it's
You
just
can shout out your
yeah,
husband's
no, it's a
store.
little sticky. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay. So
56-degree wine in Bernardsville, New Jersey.
there you go. So you can always, and he probably ships. So, and if you just go online,
He ships all over.
So there you go.
No, but it's not even about La Luz. I'm actually really proud of him, and I'm gonna use this moment to say so. So my husband, like I said, is a blackish guy in a really not blackish town in Morristown, Bernardsville, New Jersey. He has on his staff a woman who's from India and a guy who's from Peru, and like. He has built something really special in a place that like had all the odds against him, and he recently just became the sole owner of the store. He was a partner in it with some other people for a really long time, and it's gone overlooked because so much other shit is happening. But I'm just really proud of him. He worked hard at that store. He started out, like 12 years ago or 15 years ago when we met, 16 years ago. As he was a famous former musician, and he owned a skate shop, and this was his dream, and he made it happen. So I'm super proud of him.
So we're gonna have to get him on the show. Big Joe, we get you on the show.
Joey B.
Joey
Got his
B.
right here.
Well, Kerin, thank you so much for being here. I really learned a shit ton. I really learned a lot. You're a wonderful personality. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Bright smile. And yeah, I was a little hot in the studio, so she was like, but got it under control.
Am I rosy?
You're rosy.
So rosy?
Yeah, you're a little rosy.
It's because I have.
But
I'm rosy. This is natural. I don't wear blush.
Yeah, exactly. See, she's just so vibrant.
I'll wait till the videotape. I can imagine
So
how
guys,
rosy I am.
thank you so much for listening. Until next time, it's your boy MJ. Here's to the Mavericks, the philosophers, and the deep thinkers that inhabit this world of wine. Cheers, peace. We're out.
Cheers.